And we're back.
And we're back. Okay, I'm going to print out my answers from the previous set that I did type out, and you can post them, and you won't have to unravel everything that I messed up reading it. You can just say, okay, this is what happened. Dave numbered these the wrong way. So if you just read them in this order, you'll get everything that you were supposed to get out of it.
Okay.
Okay, and Dodger got in second with, this was October 17th, to the manliest of Mats, and the uber, in parentheses, in, close parentheses, famously polite Dave Sim, neatly phrased. Dodger, apologies for my previous question. How do you, quote, feel, unquote, about Wally Wood's inking and art legacy? I have since instructed Microsoft Word to immediately delete itself if I ever again attempt to use the F word in a question to Dave Sim. It doesn't bother me. I just, I do tend to correct people when they do that. The same as I tend to put a little box around the word feel in any newspaper article that I'm reading. It's like, I don't care how you feel. I'm interested in what you think, if you think, but how you feel, that's up to you. It's got nothing to do with the price of tuna in Venezuela. I took your advice and ordered secondhand copies of the Marvel Essentials Tomb of Dracula phone books. Being printed in black and white shows off the inking, and I think is the proper way to read these particular comics. Marvel and DC started their one-volume black and white reprints around 2004. Question, did you get a chuckle out of this when Marvel and DC stole your brilliant idea? Did it remind you of the famous Steve Jeppy fight? And then he's got a side note. Some of the essentials are very hard to find and go for upwards of $50 to $75. I got these for about $20 each. 2004 cover price is $16.99. Marvel has since launched a full-color reprint Epic line that collects 16 issues instead of the Essentials 24 issues. They retail for $44.99. And sorry for the long question. I like it. And Matt says, "Oh, Mike, you don't know from long questions." Yes, it's this is not the edition of Please Hold for Dave Sim where you need to apologize for long questions. No, well, you say, did you chuckle about it? No, sometimes things just work out nicely. I really wasn't aware of what Marvel and DC were doing. Like by 2004, it would be a very, very rare situation for me to go to a comic shop and actually look at what was on sale, unless it was, a back issue that I have a sentimental attachment to behind the counter or something like that. So it's when I say that things work out very nicely, we're talking about very, very, very separate things here. There's the endlessly rebooted intellectual property, which is how Marvel and DC see it. You try to make sure that you're capturing that new group of 12-year-olds or 14-year-olds by any means possible. But the endlessly rebooted intellectual property isn't how fans see it. The fans see it as its own fictional history. It starts at point A and keeps going until it stops. I mean, it's a stretch to read, Spider-Man number 1 through 425 and go, all right, I have read an actual history. But most fans do see it that way. It's like, if you want to know Spider-Man's history, you read all of the Spider-Man comics in order. The in order was a critical element. So there was a confluence of the corporate, endlessly rebooted intellectual property and the fans' perception of this as a sequential fictional history of a character that is very important to me. And me attempting a novel-length comic book, which Will Eisner had just christened at the time the graphic novel. Obviously, if you're doing a novel, you have to publish the novel in the right sequence, which is what I did with Swords and then with High Society. So you've got a confluence of those three things where the fans' perception and motivation is very different from Marvel and DC's corporate motivation and sensibility. And my attempting to go, okay, I'm going to do this. How am I going to incarnate it in physical form? And Swords was the first way until I went, okay, I can't do, it doesn't make sense to do 75 4-issue graphic novels. So then I started thinking, okay, let's do High Society as a separate book. But what I did in order to incarnate a comic book in novel form that length, that dovetailed not only with the endlessly rebooted intellectual property, but also with the corporate buy low, sell high default setting. Black and white on newsprint is cheap, so the profit margin is enormous at scale. The numbers that Marvel and DC produce. So they didn't steal my brilliant idea. They applied their own perceived needs and corporate free market needs to what I was doing, and went, this makes a lot of sense. This is definitely going to help our bottom line, not only this year, but for years to come. We've got a nearly bottomless supply of what this guy is doing, which again, it wasn't what this guy was doing. I wasn't going, I need to figure out a way to reprint issues 26 through 50. It was, I need a format that will hold High Society, which is different from what they were doing, where it's, across all of Steve Ditko's Spider-Man, Spider-Man was still roughly the same age. So that's the endlessly rebooted intellectual property, coupled with the buy low, sell high. If we do this in black and white, we're going to make more money off of the individual issues in a Spider-Man Essentials volume than we make off of the color Spider-Man comic book. This is great. This is what little corporate dreams are made of. And the more esoteric point is they didn't do it so you could see what the artwork looked like. They did it to maximize the profits, which doing it in black and white, like I say, maximize the profits. But from my point of view, it was, oh, this is a great idea because now we can see what the artwork looks like. The same with the particularly with things like Tomb of Dracula, where so much of the artwork is missing, with the world color plant color on top of it. That no, you didn't steal my idea. You applied my idea to your market, your business model. But incidentally, you also did something that I think is a great idea, which is Gene Colan inked by Tom Palmer or Steve Ditko inking himself in the prime Spider-Man years. You want to see what that actually looks like. You don't want it, through a glass darkly. The world color on top of it. My reaction, since that's part of what you're asking about, Mike. I didn't, like I say, I wasn't really aware of what Marvel and DC were doing. I would guess it was circa 2012, 2014 was this sudden Dave Sim exists anomaly, where when you've been made to not exist completely, which had certainly happened to me in the comic book field, Dave Sim has become unspeakable, and consequently his work is unspeakable. When you suddenly and inexplicably exist again, it's really, really noticeable. It was the first that I heard of it was Dave Sim created this. Without Dave Sim, you wouldn't have Marvel Essentials, and consequently, this is a major gold star in Dave Sim's notebook. Like I say, it was, by that time, I didn't have a notebook. It's like I don't have a notebook now. It's it was what happened there. Why now? The same. The closest analogy that I could come to was when Cerebus showed up in the 2018 Guinness Book of World Records. 14 years after Cerebus ended. It's the only reaction is what happened there and why now, and those are really the only two things where that did happen, and it's okay. Well, I don't think anybody is making me exist. There are these little black holes attached to Dave Sim, or probably stars of morning or whatever. And okay, the only time you're going to hear Dave Sim's name is that he created the Marvel Essentials format when he did the Cerebus collections, and Dave Sim was in the Guinness Book of World Records for most consecutive issues written and drawn. And there's so few and far between that it doesn't really register with me. It's like I've never seen my ex-wife again, and I've never seen any of my ex-girlfriends again. But it would be very much like that. If I just suddenly saw one of them, it would be, what happened there and why now? I'm glad that it happened. I mean, it's I'm pretty sure we're all in agreement that Marvel didn't do Essentials out of an aesthetic or fan-friendly budget consideration. It was, no, we can make hand over fist money on this, and that's why we're doing it. But I don't know. I think it's one of those, because I was doing it out of what I would consider a higher motivation. How do you package a graphic novel that is 500 pages long with, well, you know, if you do take that idea and use it for your own purposes, it's very possible that you're accidentally going to do something really, really good that you didn't intend to do. And that's always good when that happens in our world.
Well, a couple of Matt thoughts here. First off was the Swords collections were, how do you keep the series in print, which came from Mike Friedrich of, you got to keep it in print because if they can't get issue 2, they're not going to buy issues 4, 5, and 6. You know, that's the theory. And then, you know, and like you said, you know, you get done with the first 25 issues, and okay, you got 6 volumes. This it'll work. You know, you can keep them in print, but at the same time, then it's, well, the next book is the same size as those 6, and that's, you know, okay, we'll do it. We'll, you know, do High Society, and then all the other book, you know, and then you kind of started to write the comic with the idea of this is going to get collected, so. You know, you can do weird stuff like Guys, where the cover is the first panel or the first page for that issue, and you know continue on the inside front cover and stuff. The second Matt thought was, given the history of specifically Marvel's reprinting, it's like in the 70s they had the pocket books where they signed a deal of, okay, well, you know, it's going to be a few issues, like I think they did one with the first 6 Hulk stories, you know, the first 6 issues of the Hulk as a pocketbook, and then they did, you know, Fantastic Four and Spider-Man and stuff, and yeah, they sold, but it was, you know, well, you're not going to keep doing Spider-Man until you get caught up to this month's issue, and then there was the Stan Lee origin books where it's, here's the first appearance of the character, here's a recent appearance of the character, and here's Stan talking about creating the character. Because, as we all know, Stan Lee created the Marvel Universe all by himself. Jack and Steve, who?
Now.
I mean, that's... The part I love is, in the 90s, they reprinted those books, and they put in new versions of the modern issue. And you read them, and you're like, this is kind of a whiplash of, here's the first Iron Man story, and here's Iron Man 300. Like, there's a bit of a, you know, none of the characters in the first story are in the second story except for Iron Man.
Well, yeah, and in my time period, there was also Collector's Items Classics and Marvel Tales, where they reprinted pretty close to sequentially, and they had the original covers on the cover, you know, as insets, and that was kind of hit or miss as far as I was concerned. They would probably have been better served to do, you know, Marvel Tales and do the first 4 issues of Spider-Man and reprint the first 4 covers. That was kind of the thing where I went, Marvel and DC, I think, have been doing this wrong all along relative to what fans are interested in, which is getting the whole story starting again from point A. And whether you reprint 4 issues or 8 issues or 10 issues, you got me sold on following these, just because I want all of them and I can't afford to buy the back issues.
Well, and that's that was my next point, because Marvel evolved. Eventually, they started doing where, like, the Spider-Man alien costume stories, you know, those 8 or 9 issues got collected as a trade, and Marvel would issue those, but, like, it wasn't like they were doing, okay, here's, you know, the storyline, here's the next storyline. It was all hit or miss of what was popular. And then they started the Marvel Masterworks where, okay, this is a year's worth of Spider-Man, in color with the covers, an introduction by somebody related, either Stan or somebody else involved in it. But the problem with the Masterworks was it started with Fantastic Four, and the first volume was the first year of Fantastic Four, and the next volume was like the first year of the Hulk, and the next volume was the first year of Spider-Man, and the next volume was the next, and when they got through, the first years of all the characters, then it was okay. Here's the second year. So like I have 4 of the Spider-Mans, but they're not sequential. It's like number 9, number 20. Number like 30 something, and the other one is they were $50 a piece because they were hardcovers, and that was 1980s $50 when that was real money, and so I'm assuming somebody at Marvel who was aware of Dave Simmons' service and the phone books went, why don't we try this where it's Volume 1 of X-Men, followed by Volume 2 of X-Men, followed by Volume, and we'll just, because the Claremont Byrne run, as classic as everyone thinks it is, those issues cost money when you want to go to the back issues. Like, for 20, or for $17, you can get the first 2 years of Tomb of Dracula, and it's in black and white. The problem with the black and white, though, was they were taking the files and stripping the color out where they could. And there's a famous, I think it's the first Thor volume in the Essentials, and the reprinting was so uneven. Like, some pages it looked like it was shot from the original art. Other pages had gray tone because they just took the color files and put them in grayscale. And others, somebody tried to digitally manipulate it so it didn't look like that, and lighten the colors up when they turned into grayscale, and so it looked muddy. And like everybody's going, you're not getting our $20 if this is what you're going to do with that. And like they froze the program for a year, and that's when they started coming out with okay, this is the high end, best versions of these files that we can get.
Right. This looks like a job for Sean Robinson.
Oh, if Sean was doing remastering back when they started the Essentials, he probably wouldn't know your name because he'd be a millionaire.
Very, very definitely. Yeah, it's interesting that it unfolded the way that it did. I understand the problem. I think we all understand the problem. It's just one of those, it's very easy to ignore at the corporate level, where a lot of the people who are making the Ron Perlman level decisions have absolutely no respect for the material. So consequently, they make really, really bad choices, not out of any level of malice. It's just, no, we're making sausages. If sausage number 1 sold, let's get sausage number 2 put together and get it out there, not knowing that, well, if you don't pay attention to the quality, you're cutting your own throat. And, sitting here across the, the corporate meeting table with you in our special, 79th floor office, and trying to explain that to you, I can see that you just have a blank expression on your face. And it's like, I don't want to lose my job, so I'm probably not going to keep talking about this. And I'll just sit here and let you cut your own throat.
True.